Leo Goes Home, written, illustrated, and narrated by Lorin Padgett. Leo the cat led a good life, or so he thought. He lived in a house with his 5 humans, 3 little boys, and their parents. Every night he slept in the youngest boy's top bunk bed because it was the highest place in the house and had the coziest blanket. When he woke up with the youngest boy's foot mashed into his face, he thought, humph, today might not be such a good day. Leo stretched and then carefully groomed his face. He made his way downstairs to the kitchen for first breakfast. When he arrived, Leo noticed that no one had put out his favorite food, tender kibbles. His bowl was empty. "Hurry up, boys, or you'll be late for school," the mom yelled out. The boys and their parents rushed about, too busy to notice his meowing and circling. In fact, everyone left without patting him goodbye. As the house grew quiet, Leo wandered over to the big kitchen table. At least there's always second breakfast, he thought to himself. The boys usually left their cereal bowls on the table, and Leo helped out by cleaning the last of the milk from the dishes. To his dismay, there was no second breakfast. The bowls had been cleaned up, and only a few drops of milk were left on the table. Leo dutifully lapped them up, his stomach grumbling. Humph! No first breakfast, no second breakfast. How can this day get any worse? Leo asked. He climbed back up the stairs and had scampered up the ladder to the top bunk for a quick snooze when he discovered the coziest blanket was missing. He could hear the slurping of the washing machine and knew the coziest blanket was wet, so without his morning nap, Leo grumped back downstairs to do some window watching from the sunny spot on the back of the couch. As he entered the living room, Leo noticed something odd. There was a breeze wafting down the hallway. Creeping forward, he saw the front door was slightly ajar. Leo is a cat, and cats are curious creatures. He couldn't help sticking his nose out to see what he could see. Sneezing in the bright light, he saw a dark shadow sitting to the side of the door. It was another cat! She was the blackest cat Leo had ever seen. "Hello, excuse me." Leo was a most polite cat. "But what are you doing sitting at my house?" The black cat slowly opened her eyes and winked at him. "I am a messenger cat. I delivered my message, so I am going home. I am waiting here for a pickup," she said. Leo didn't understand what she meant by these things, so peeking out further from the door, he asked another polite question. "Yes, but who are you?" The black cat sat up, twisting her tail around in a perfect circle. "My proper name is Raven Blackwing, but you can call me Raven." "Who are you? Do you even have a proper cat name living with humans?" Leo thought about this, for no one had called him by his proper cat name in a long while. "Humph! Of course I do!" he exclaimed indignantly. "My name is Pounce de Leonine, but everyone calls me Leo." As Leo stepped out onto the porch, he asked, "How are you going to go home while sleeping at my house? How do they pick you up?" "The spaceship will pick me up. I've already sent out the call, and they are on their way. I just have to wait for the right shadow to appear," Raven replied. "Spaceship? Your home is in outer space?" Leo asked. "Cats have been on Earth for thousands of years, long enough that some cats have even forgotten where we come from. But the true home of all cats is amongst the stars. Causing cosmic mischief is in our nature," Raven answered. Leo remembered his very bad morning, the empty table and the wet, coziest blanket. He thought a spaceship sounded very interesting. "I don't think I like it here very much right now. Can I go home with you?" The black cat eyed him before saying, "Yes, but only if you can run and pounce very fast to catch the shadow." Leo the cat could run and pounce very fast. Once he had even caught a mouse that snuck into the kitchen. Raven and Leo settled in to wait for the shadows to appear. As the morning grew longer, Leo became restless, waiting in the sun. Just as he was about to go back in the house to drink water from the sink, Raven shot upright. "Here comes the shadows! See that big one that's shrinking next to the bush? That's the portal that you have to run and catch to get on the spaceship." Leo was beginning to think that the black cat was playing a joke on him, But as he watched, Raven jumped up and chased across the yard like her tail was on fire. Then she took an amazing leap and slinked right into the shadow and disappeared. Leo's eyes grew very big. He hesitated only a moment to think of his boys and his top bunk, before he too streaked off the porch and pounced just under the bush. With a strange whoosh and a feeling of lightness, Leo also disappeared. There was a pop and a sizzle, and then Leo was dumped on a hard, slick floor. In the dim light, he could see cats of all shapes and sizes lazing about the room. There were fat cats and skinny cats, tall cats and smush-faced cats, black cats and striped cats and patchy cats everywhere. Raven Blackwing sat regally beside him with her tail tucked around one paw. "I didn't think you were going to make it. You almost missed the shadow, you know," she stated. On the tallest platform there perched a cat wearing a crown. "Who is that cat way up there? The one with the crown on her head?" Leo asked quietly. "That is Queen She Who Walks with Silver Feet, or Silly for short. But don't laugh when you say it. She's not really very silly at all," Raven whispered. Leo wondered how he could get to the top of the platform. He thought he would be able to see everything so much better from up there. "Does she always sit up there, or does she let others have a turn?" Leo asked. "Oh, no. No one gets to sit as high as the Queen. Next to her, that's her brother, Sir Doubting Thomas, Prince Charming." "Thomas always gets the next highest seat," said Raven. "It's all about ranking. Who you are in the court matters very much around here." Leo didn't know anything about ranking or courts. Just then his stomach gave a mighty growl. "What about eating? When do you eat here? I missed first breakfast and second breakfast." Raven cocked her head at him. "We can eat whenever we want here." Leo thought this was a great idea. "Where are the tender kibbles? I could eat 2 bowls right now." The black cat scrunched her nose up in distaste. "Kibble? We eat only the finest mouse guts and fish heads here. No trash can cuisine, and certainly no kibble." Leo felt deflated. He had never had mouse guts or fish heads, but they sounded terrible. All he wanted was a bowl of his crunchy tender kibble. He wandered away from Raven, careful not to step on any tails. Leo thought about his warm sunbeam on the couch and wondered if there were any windows on this spaceship. After ambling down a long hallway, he came to a small room with the biggest window he'd ever seen. They were in space! Those must be stars and planets and things, he thought to himself. The youngest boy had once read him a book about space while Leo dozed in the coziest blanket on the top bunk. There were 3 cats at the window talking into headsets. Leo thought there must be a bird or a squirrel out in space, since they were watching so intently, and he squeezed in between 2 of them to have a closer look. After all, cats are curious creatures. "Hey now! You're not supposed to be in the control room. All cats belong in court," one of the cats informed him. Just staring at the Queen seemed very boring to Leo. "I just wanted to get a better look out the window," Leo said as he squirmed up onto the control board. He tried to wiggle his way up carefully, as he still hadn't seen the squirrel, but his foot slipped and came down on a big red button. Then his other feet landed on a whole lot of buttons. Suddenly, the spaceship tilted to the side. Then all the cats were shoved into the open air as the room became weightless. Leo howled at the feeling of no up or down, and tried to grab onto the nearest thing that would help him get his feet secured again. The spaceship dipped in the other direction, and all 4 cats slid sideways. Leo was still yowling and clawing when the spaceship regained gravity. He fell to the ground with his ears flattened against his head. That was just awful, he thought. "You get out of here!" the captain yelled at him, and Leo got out. The door slammed behind him as he followed the hallway back to spaceport. In court, all of the cats had been flung all over the place. Even Queen Silly was off her highest platform and trying to find her crown, which had gotten lost in the tilting of the spaceship. Queen Silly turned to stare at him down her nose. Leo's shoulders hunched up, and his ears went down as she frowned at him. "Are you responsible for this mess?" she inquired. I suppose I am, but it isn't really my fault. I just wanted to see the space squirrel," Leo replied. All around him cats tittered and giggled. Queen Silly did not seem silly, even without her crown and her hair all mussed. "You shall go back to the people planet," she stated, and Leo realized he missed his boys and his window and his top bunk. He didn't have long to wait before there was a sizzle and a pop, and then a loud whoosh, and Leo found himself blinking in the late afternoon sun, tucked under a bush. It was his yard! He could hear his voice calling out, "Leo! Leo, where are you?" He crept out from under the bush, and the oldest boy saw him first. He ran over and scooped him up into a big hug and carried him in the house. "Leo, we were so worried we couldn't find you anywhere," the oldest boy crooned to him. "We're so glad you were safe and home. We're sorry we forgot to feed you this morning." There were lots of pets, chin scratches, and purrs. Inside, Leo found his bowl was full of tender kibble. He ate until his tummy was stuffed and then scurried up the stairs. The coziest blanket was laid out on the top bunk and was still warm from the dryer. He curled up in his favorite spot next to the youngest boy's pillow and closed his eyes. The youngest boy climbed up next to him to read him a book about tigers, not one about space. Leo decided he'd had enough of space. He was happy to be home. Leo had a good life, he thought. The end. Did you know that Leo is a real cat? Leo lives in North Carolina with his 3 boys and their parents. He loves to sleep on his coziest blanket in the youngest boy's top bunk bed. He hopes you've enjoyed his adventures, as he's been telling these stories for years to anyone who would listen. He especially loves to read reviews of his stories, so if you've enjoyed this book, please be sure to leave a review.